Hello, my name's Stuart. I'm the Unrepentant Atheist, and I'm making a video today about why I make these videos. So I've been asked the question quite a few times, why do you make these videos? And not just me, it's not just me that's been asked these questions. I've heard online on the Atheist Experience and other shows. Okay, so you don't believe in God, but why make a big show about it? Why make videos on something about which you don't believe in? So that's why I'm making this video, and the reason is that effectively I noticed that there's a lot of Christian channels out there. My mind frankly boggled when I saw how many Christian channels there were. I've been watching atheist shows for about, I don't know, probably 8 years, and it never really occurred to me to go and look at what Christian channels are saying, and I thought this might be a good idea, and I went to look, and I was absolutely amazed at how many Christian channels there actually are. With the number of views that they get, frankly puts atheist channels to shame. Tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of views, some with millions of views, and granted there are some small channels as well, but it looked to me like we're outnumbered by about 20 to 1 at least. But more serious than that is that I felt there's a lot of propaganda out there which is challenging atheists effectively and challenging science, which I realized is based on disinformation and frankly I felt dishonesty. Just to give you an example, I did a video a couple of weeks ago about a retired biochemist who is a born-again Christian, and he was giving his reasons why he found in science evidence for God's existence. I listened very carefully and realized that his reasons were very unscientific, and yet he was claiming the scientific high ground and saying that you had to be unscientific not to accept what he was saying. So he was saying essentially that there's no way that a self-replicating cell could occur by purely naturalistic means. He was effectively saying it's impossible. He was also saying that the Big Bang couldn't have happened, the universe could not have started without a creator God. Again, I thought both of these positions were essentially unscientific, and the reason I think that is because it's not the domain of science to evaluate supernaturalistic claims. Science deals with what manifests in the material world, and if it doesn't manifest in the material world, science has got nothing to say about it. And yet these Christian channels are claiming to be more scientific than science, and I would challenge anybody to go around the world's great universities into the physics departments and biology departments and find anybody that would be prepared to back up his statement that these things are impossible and that therefore it must have been a God who did it all. So it's a theological position. It might even be a philosophical position as well, but it's certainly not a scientific position. So I didn't like seeing that propaganda, false information, and unscientific. I felt that, especially reading the comments, that only Christians were looking at these channels, so they're sort of preaching to the converted, and there may well be Christians who are wavering, who are going to those channels saying, oh well, actually I've had doubts about God's existence, there doesn't really seem to be evidence, but yeah, he's right actually. How could a self-replicating cell get going unless a God did it? How could the universe get going unless a God did it? I think I'll stay in Christianity. So I think that by getting more voices out there, more atheist voices, we can highlight what the fallacies are, we can highlight the dishonesty, and we can highlight the lack of real proper critical evaluation of various issues. So I put my voice out there. effectively to just simply increase the number of us who are doing it, hoping that we will be able to help maybe Christians evaluate their own critical thinking, their own evaluation of the evidence, which may well be skewed by a sort of confirmation bias. If they can hear some of our arguments and why we're rebutting some of these things, maybe they will actually come around to our way of thinking, that only through evidence can you form proper opinions and beliefs. And what constitutes proper convincing evidence? Because this is a thing, because obviously Christians will say, oh well, we've got evidence, we've got the Bible, we've got Josephus, we've got Pliny the Younger, we've got Tacitus, it's all history. We've got archaeology, we found a part of the ark, and all this kind of thing. We've got the Turin shroud, and we've got women testifying in the Gospels that they saw Jesus. And of course, it must be a real account of true events, because nobody would use women to report these things. They would have used men, because women's word was worth nothing. And people who are already in Christianity are going to listen to this and think, well, yeah, actually they got a point, yeah, I've got the right beliefs. But they might by sheer accident come across some of our videos, and the more of them we put out there, the better. Particularly if we deal with things that are in the Bible. And I've had Christians, I've been quite surprised at the number of Christians that have come onto my channel. I've had some good comments, exchanges with them. And I may not have inadvertently helped any of them out of their own religion, but it doesn't really matter, because I'm adding to the discourse and creating more content out there which counters the theistic narrative. So this community thing is very important. One of the things about leaving a religion is that you suddenly lose your community, and if you don't realize that there's already a substantial atheist community out there who can give you support, you might be convinced to stay in your own religion, really, even if you stop believing, just to get that support. And we know that lots already do. But if they knew that, for example, I know that the Atheist Experience, if you happen to live in Austin, you can go and join them for dinner afterwards if you're an atheist, and it's great that there's that sort of support that exists. As for me, I live in the UK, and we're a very secular country here, so I don't need that kind of support. But in a country like America, which is sort of heavily steeped in Christianity, I think it's probably more important to know that you've got that secular support, and that you don't really need to stay in a religion which has got no proper evidential base. You can get out of it and start living in the real world and have a community as well. So the more of us that put videos out there and create this community, the better chance there is that we can help people out of it. So there's a community, there's the disinformation, the propaganda, and also, frankly, there's a lot that's happening in the world because of religion, which is going to keep happening unless more of us have a say and try to stop it by creating more content and putting more pressure on, creating more unbelievers. And hopefully some of these horrible things which are happening in the world at the moment, and I count genital mutilation as one of the worst, which we know happens in the name of religion, both to boys and girls, is so horrendous. It's just the mind boggles. It's just horrifying. I knew a nurse in England who said to me about circumcision, that as part of her training, that I can't remember the exact reason why, but they had to watch a video on genital mutilation, circumcision. They had to watch the circumcision being performed. I think it was a Jewish circumcision, and she said to me that several of the nurses actually were sick or had to get out of the room. It was so horrifying to see a baby being circumcised, and yet this is going on all the time, and there's no good reason for it. There are perfectly good hygiene practices which mean that you can retain your foreskin and not suffer any hygiene consequences. It's just a matter of teaching boys how to wash under their foreskin. It's no big deal. And yet we've got these things happening, and that's one of the reasons that I'm passionate about doing these things, because I want to be a force for good. I want to stop those horrible things to stop happening. And I'm realistic that in my lifetime it probably won't, but that's no good reason not to make these videos. Maybe in several hundred years to come, eventually all this nonsense will stop. But more of us have got to speak out and make videos and hopefully convince people who are in religion that the evidence isn't there to support their beliefs, and maybe give them some advice about how to evaluate that evidence. And that's why I make so many videos debunking Christian points of view. So that's about it really. I mean, just to recap, so obviously it's not for money that I'm doing it. I'm not interested in the money. It's to provide information, to provide my point of view as an atheist, so people can learn more about how atheists think and how atheists consider the question of the existence of God, to add to the community of support for people who are trying to come out of religion, and also for existing atheists, and to counter this awful Christian lying propaganda which is out there. So that's it for now. Hope that answers the questions, those of you who've asked it, and for those of you who haven't asked it, I hope that it's given you an insight into why I'm doing this. Okay, thanks for now. Give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you want. Goodbye for now.